Welcome to The Explainer. Look, today we're pulling back the curtain on the mechanics of search engine optimization. If you've ever wondered about the hidden machine driving search results, you're in the right place. Because whether you're running a massive business or just trying to build a personal brand, figuring out this invisible machine is literally the key to unlocking the internet's true power. We've got a lot of ground to cover, so we're going to break it down into 6 quick parts. We'll hit the power of page 1, how search engines actually work, the fundamental building blocks, the rules of ranking, how to measure your success, and finally, how to build a real career out of all this. All right, let's jump right into part 1, the power of page 1, and why visibility is the ultimate currency online. So imagine you've built this absolutely fantastic website or business, but literally nobody is visiting it. To understand why, think about your own browsing habits for a second. When was the very last time you actively clicked over to page 2 of your search results? Honestly, if you're like most of us, the answer's probably never. You usually just click the first, second, or maybe the third link, right? Well, the data backs that up. A massive 75% of users never even look at the second page. Never! And that number right there creates some huge stakes. Because if your amazing business is sitting on page 2, or heaven forbid, page 3, you are practically invisible to the vast majority of the internet. You're losing traffic, you're losing leads, and you are missing out on conversions big time. So, how do we fix this visibility problem? The answer is SEO. Now, the term search engine optimization is kind of misleading, right? Because we aren't actually optimizing the search engine itself. We're optimizing your digital real estate, your actual web pages. And a crucial thing to remember here is that it's an ongoing process. It's definitely not some magical on-off switch you just flick once. It's a continuous, deliberate effort to make sure that when someone searches for keywords related to what you do, you are the one showing up at the very top. Which brings us to part 2, how search engines work. Peeking behind that algorithmic curtain. To really grasp this, we have to look at the whole global search ecosystem. Now, obviously, Google is the absolute giant in the room, processing over 92% of the global market, but it's actually pretty fascinating to see the wider picture. You've got Bing and Yahoo, sure, but there are also engines catering to very specific needs, like DuckDuckGo. That one is heavily favored by privacy advocates because it doesn't track your data. Then you have Baidu dominating the market in China, and Yandex, which is huge in Russia. But here's the good news. Because Google is just so overwhelmingly dominant, if you master Google's rules, you're usually going to automatically rank pretty well in all the others too. So, how does Google actually do it? Well, I want you to think of your web page's journey exactly like a massive global library. Step 1 is crawling. The search engine sends out a bot, sometimes called a spider, to scour the entire internet, bringing back all the new books, which in this case is your website's source code, and saving them. Next step is indexing. This is where our digital librarian looks at all these new books and sorts them onto very specific shelves based on their categories. And finally, step 3 is ranking. When a user walks in and asks a question, the librarian uses incredibly complex algorithms to pull the absolute best, most relevant book right off that specific shelf and hand it to them. Okay, moving right along to section 3, the building blocks of constructing a visible brand. To make sure your book gets picked by that librarian, you need to understand that SEO is basically split into 2 halves. The analogy here is super helpful. Think of on-page SEO as literally working on your own house. You're painting the walls, fixing the plumbing, making sure the lights turn on quickly. In digital terms, that means you're optimizing your content, you're improving your site's load speed, and you're fixing up those technical code structures. But having a beautiful house doesn't matter if nobody knows it's there, right? That's where off-page SEO comes in. This is where you step outside your front door and actively invite people over. You do this through link building on other websites and promoting your brand all across the web. You absolutely need both of these halves to succeed. Now, let's talk about section 4, the rules of ranking, and why it is so crucial to play the game the right way. Because trust me, the internet has some very strict guidelines. When we talk about white hat SEO, it basically means you are following the rules naturally. You're building a genuinely high-quality experience for real human users. Black hat SEO, on the other hand, is definitely the wrong way to go about it. This involves spamming, stuffing unnatural keywords onto your page, and buying fake links to try and game the system. And look, while black hat techniques might give you a really risky, short-lived boost, sticking to white hat guidelines is the only way to ensure you don't get heavily penalized or, worse, completely blacklisted by Google. These algorithms are just way too smart to be tricked for long. So what exactly does Google want? Well, the algorithms actually consider over 200 different factors before handing your book to a user. But if you focus heavily on these critical elements right here, you've basically got the ultimate cheat sheet for mastering the machine. First off, you must have high-quality, human-written content. No copy-pasted, spammy text. Secondly, your site needs to load fast. We call these core web vitals, because nobody has the patience for a slow website. Third, you have to prove your EEAT. That stands for experience, expertise, authoritativeness, and trust, which is massively important, especially if you're offering financial or medical advice. And finally, but crucially, your site has to be fully optimized for mobile devices and heavily secured with an SSL certificate. All right, let's pivot to Section 5, measuring your success by decoding the dashboard. Everything we've talked about so far culminates right here on the SERP, which stands for the Search Engine Results page. This is literally your primary digital battleground. And man, has it evolved rapidly. It is no longer just a boring list of simple blue text links. Today, a SERP is this highly dynamic multimedia experience. It's loaded with map listings for local businesses, video carousels, image packs, shopping carts, and those little people also ask dropdowns. Your ultimate goal is to claim as much of this diverse real estate as you possibly can. Now, the magic happens when someone actually clicks your link. That's when a vital metric called dwell time kicks in. This is just a fancy way of measuring the amount of time someone spends actively exploring your site before they hit that back button to return to the search results. Let's say someone searches for a chocolate cake recipe. If they click your link, realize you're actually just selling boxed cake mix instead of giving them a recipe, and they leave in 5 seconds, well, your dwell time is going to be terrible. You absolutely want to keep visitors on your page as long as possible, because search engines heavily reward content that fully and clearly satisfies what the user was actually looking for. And directly related to that is the dreaded bounce rate. This is the percentage of visitors who enter your site and just immediately leave without clicking anything or taking any further action. Honestly, think of this exactly like someone walking into a physical retail store, looking around for 1 single second, and then instantly turning around and walking right back out the door. To prevent this from happening online, you absolutely must have an engaging layout and incredibly clear navigation. You want to give them immediate clickable options, like, say, a button right at the top linking to an eggless version of that cake recipe. You've got to entice them to stay and explore. Finally, to measure success, we have CTR, or click-through rate. This one is simple math. Out of 100 people who saw your link on the search results page, how many actually clicked it? If 15 people clicked, boom, your CTR is 15%. Now, if your CTR is terribly low, it clearly means your title and description just aren't enticing enough. And the tragic part is that holds true even if the algorithm did its job and placed you right in front of your ideal audience on page 1. It doesn't matter if nobody clicks. You have to write titles that actively compel humans to click on them. And that leads us to our final section, number 6, building your SEO career and all the incredible opportunities waiting for you beyond the code. All right. First things first, it is time to bust a massive industry myth. If you look at the skills actually needed for SEO, notice what's completely missing. You absolutely do not need to be a programmer to succeed here. Forget complex coding. What you primarily need is sharp critical thinking and just simple everyday common sense to understand what a user actually wants when they type in a search. Seriously, if you can read and write basic English, navigate the internet, and handle standard MS Office programs, you already have exactly what it takes to start optimizing websites today. So, what can you actually do with these skills once you have them? Well, the demand right now is simply astronomical. With thousands of remote and local jobs actively hunting for this exact expertise, you've got incredible flexibility. You could easily build your own highly profitable freelance business and manage an international client base from your living room. You could step into a corporate role as a dedicated SEO manager. You could launch your own entrepreneurial ventures, ranking your own websites to drive sales, or even become what we call a T-shaped digital marketer, someone who specializes deeply in SEO but has a solid grasp of the broader digital marketing landscape. So, now that you've got a solid grasp on how this invisible machine really operates, the mechanics of crawling, indexing, ranking, and the absolute immense value of landing on page 1, the only question left is what you're going to do with it. Are you going to leverage these insights to finally take control of your digital destiny? Because I promise you, right at this very second, your target audience is typing a query into a search bar. And when they hit enter, are they going to find you, or are they going to find your competitors?